Hello to episode 9 of EarthStar Talk with Claudia Granger, and my guest today is Kelli Kessler of Divine Pathways.love. She works in emotion code and body code, and I welcome you, and please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Okay. Hi, Claudia. So I guess how I'll start is just by saying that I was born, I would describe myself as a seeker. I was kind of born that way, and just looking for the answers to the bigger questions in life, like who am I, what am I, where am I going, what am I doing here, all of those questions. Normal mundane things didn't really resonate for me. I could sense that there was a deeper purpose and a deeper meaning to life, and so I wanted to figure that out. And I think that the first way that I connected to the spiritual world was in nature. And I had this big fir tree outside my bedroom window, and I would pull up the blinds and communicate with it. I would have conversations, and there was a dialogue. Definitely, it wasn't like I was talking to a wall or something. I was having communication with this tree, and that made me really understand that I was connected to everything in the world. And so when I moved into my teenage years, I started to self-destruct a little bit. I had some trauma as a child, and that along with these existential questions that I didn't have an answer to at that point, really made me kind of restless in the world. And like I said, I was doing things that weren't serving me as a teenager.
And then we all as a teenager.
Yeah, it was pretty extreme, but it was just part of my path. It really taught me a lot. And I actually became a mom when I was 15 years old. And excuse me, that completely changed my whole life. This love I had for my daughter really motivated me to want to heal and change instead of run away and numb, from all the things that I had been through and all of these unanswered questions I had. So excuse me, I started on this spiritual journey when I was 15, and started reading books and going to workshops. And, it definitely wasn't easy, especially at first on that path. But I just always knew there was so much more going on in the world. And little by little, I started to, like they say, peel the onion and figure out who I was beneath all of the pain that I experienced. And so more and more over the years, I became in contact with that part of myself that, that couldn't be hurt, and that was full of love, and that, was never injured really. So I got to a point where I had done a lot of work on myself, and I really wanted to help other people. I had received so much help in my life, and I was able to resonate with the spiritual world in a way that I didn't think was possible, when I was 15. So the first way that I did that was in my career, and I kind of used death as a doorway into spiritual development. And
wait. You said you use death as a doorway to your spiritual development. How does that
work? Yeah. So I think the concept of death, and just it's a big mystery to a lot of us, just trying, and my drive to figure death out really drove a lot of my, what I was doing in my life, because I felt like if I could answer those questions about death, that all those questions that I've had my whole life would be answered, because
aspect.
Yeah. So I worked in assisted living communities and was around death a lot. People were passing away, and I was present for that. And it was really a sacred experience to be there when somebody passed away. And it was similar to being there when somebody was born. It was just the presence of divine was undeniable. And then most recently, I just quit my job in June. I worked in the cemetery and funeral home industry, and for 7.5 years. And during my time there, I really cultivated a lot of spiritual skills that I wasn't planning to. I know that when I first started in my role there, that when somebody's in pain, I think it's human nature to want to fix it and to make it better.
Right.
And I learned very quickly that my spiritual work in that role was to do nothing. And, obviously I had a job to do and I had processes I had to go through, but my role with other people was to hold space for them and just to be there and allow them to be where they are. I think that people, even when they're going through grief, they kind of feel pressured not to feel a certain way because they don't want to displease people around them, or it's really interesting. So
true. I experienced that too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So during my years in that role, cultivating just the ability to be in that place of love and whatever's going on is okay, has really, is really, I think, a really important skill for people to learn, just the ability to do nothing. It sounds funny, but
no, it's not funny at all to be still. That's why meditation often doesn't work, because we cannot be still. We cannot let it be. We always have to do, make something, think something. So that is really true.
Yeah, it is for sure. So, and then in the last few years, I've started to, I was certified in the emotion code and body code recently in the last year or so. And then I also am a Seraphim Blueprint practitioner and teacher. That's a form of energy healing.
Excuse me when I'm interrupting here, because you're already venturing in a totally different field. I want to come back to this work at the funeral home and there. Did you ever see ghosts? I have questions.
I did. Over my time there, I did develop the ability to see spirits. And sense people in the room. There's a very distinct feeling, where the air pressure in the room drops and all kinds of things. But mostly I was present at graveside services a lot, almost every single day. And the deceased was there almost every single time. And
listen up, folks. What she said is important. When you're at the funeral of a loved one, the deceased one is still present. Excuse me if I'm interrupting here, because I think that's very important to understand. As I'm a medium, I work a lot with people who want to contact their crossed over loved ones. And I found, and I just want to interject this here, that people contact and say goodbye after the death about a week, where people have dreams or feel the presence or see a loved one sitting with them, in their desperation on a sofa or bed or whatnot. And then 1 week after the funeral, they will be still present. And then comes a time when there's nothing. So please, folks, that doesn't mean that your crossed over loved ones have dropped you like a hot potato. No, it's just that they have to look upwards and not be engaged here anymore for a while. Later they can come back. But exactly like what Kelli said, I can only confirm that crossed over loved ones attend their own funerals. So be nice at the funerals, folks. Please continue. I didn't want to disrupt you. I just wanted to interject a little bit here.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's definitely something that happens for sure. And yes, we attend our own funerals. It's true.
Do you? Did you ever consciously talk to a spirit that way? I mean, you told me that you talked about, to trees, so you felt the presence and you had mental communications there. Did you ever do that with ghosts? Not ghosts is wrong word. Spirits of the crossed over loved ones too?
So not with with families I worked with in my own personal life, I've had some dialogue. It's energetically, not actually out loud. Probably, I don't know if that's how you connect. I feel like that skill in me could definitely be cultivated more. I haven't really focused a lot on it. I know that sounds strange because I really want to connect with the other side, but that isn't something that I feel like I'm really good at this point. But I definitely have had that dialogue with people that have crossed over, for sure. Mostly just with my energy.
Well, I remember in my early years in America, working at a center and doing readings. One day, a gentleman came through the door and he had a whole armada of spirits with him. And I said, oh my goodness, what does he do? And then he sat down, he said, yeah, I know. I'm a funeral director and I'm also doing side jobs with embalming and this and that. I know, I have a lot with me. So he was totally aware. And he said, I love them all. It's just not, don't be scared. It can be a little bit overwhelming in my presence because his love was emanating. And so spirit were naturally drawn to him and wanted, when they were afraid to move on higher up, loved the light of his presence. And I'm sure that you were such a light too, where spirits were drawn to naturally, because I know the work you're doing, which we are now going into next, is also a representation of that love and that light. So tell us a little bit about what you then started. You said something about body code and emotion code. Can you get into that?
So I became certified in the emotion code and body code, and it really represents kind of who I am as a person, because my life path has really been about transforming and understanding who I am without all the stuff in the way. And these tools, the body code and emotion code. So the emotion code is kind of the first step, and the body code actually includes the emotion code. So the body code is the deeper tool that I use. So
how does that work? What is it? Can you tell us a little bit about it? I don't think that everybody who uses this knows what that emotion code and body code is. So a little bit about that.
Sure. So the way that it works is I use a pendulum in order to tap into somebody's energy, or if they're present, it just happens. And it helps to access the subconscious mind. And oftentimes things are in our way, that a lot of times actually that we aren't conscious of. So this modality helps to access that, and it things can be removed that we've been working on in therapy for 10 years in one session.
Wow.
It's really amazing, because we can go and talk about what's going on for us for years and not really understand the root of it. But going through this process with the it's actually an application that's used now. It used to be on paper, but to find out what's going on spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever's in the way, and your subconscious mind, with the permission to figure it out, is willing to release it. So once it's moved out of the way, people can, it's really truly miraculous, the things that I've seen in just 1 or 2 sessions. I mean, sometimes it takes longer than that, but oftentimes it's very quick. And the reason for that is because of the ability to get to the root of what's going on.
Isn't there also something where you do something with a magnet on your head?
Yeah, so that's part of the
as a representative of the one who should be doing it, and you connect somehow with that energy field, and you doing it kind of sort of for them. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so a lot of my sessions, especially right now, I'm doing on Zoom. And when I connect in energetically with a person, I'm acting as their surrogate, and I use like a magnet. Like I have 2 of them here that I run on my head right here and act as them. So, and this is how the block is removed, by using a magnet. And then the removal on my energy is actually in place of them.
Okay. I, of course, know a little bit about the emotion code,
Yeah.
and the body code. So I do it on myself sometimes, even though I'm not a practitioner and didn't study in detail about these things. But intuitively, I know it works. So sometimes I say to myself, here is, I'm allowing myself to let go of XYZ. And I'm not even using a magnet. I'm using just my fingertips and go back. And even thinking about that, I'm getting already a shiver when I'm starting to end up at my neck. I know
Yeah.
charge was sitting verbally or proverbially in my neck, you know, what was blocked there. So when I do that, I access the central meridian, which is, you know, going then later through in like a nestle of a tree through the whole body. So I'm accessing the whole body structure on several layers by doing this magnetic work. And I think when you do that, you're tapping into the energy field of the other. And as you said, surrogate doing it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what have been the most predominant themes you have been working on so far in your career doing body and emotion code? What is always reoccurring where you say, wow, this is a pattern in people right now? What's happening right now on that field?
So what I'm seeing most of actually is people feeling like they're cursed, or that somebody has a spell on them of some sort. So I would say 50% of the people that I'm working, and I mean, that's not how I advertise, you know, but it's common right now. So, and there are, you know, parts of the system that help with that. And it's really effective. So, yeah.
Well, our beliefs have definitely a lot to do with it. And if we cannot explain why certain negative things happen to us, of course, it's easy to do, you know, like a blame shame game, like somebody did something on us. And sometimes it's true. I mean, any ill wish, any negative thought can do something. If we think negative about a person in the morphogeneric field, which everything exists as interconnected, and that's also the field you're working with, then a simple thought can create form. So yeah, we might name it as curse, but yes, negative thought forms can be very devastating. I always tell my clients, you know, check your intentions also towards yourself. What are you really thinking in every given moment in time? Being very aware, very conscious. And sometimes there's a lot of negativity in the world, and I would totally agree. Right now is one of those times.
Absolutely, for sure.
But coming back to your own personal spirit connection, you were talking already about, you know, working in a funeral home scenario or at gravesites and communicating with the tree spirits, the dryads. So what do you do for your own well-being? Do you do prayer? Do you do ceremony? Do you channel your spirit guides? What do you do for your own balancing?
So I meditate every day for at least 30 minutes, and that really is life-changing meditation. And when I'm doing a session, I am so in the presence of spirit. I mean, I move myself out of the way, and so I just feel my connection so strongly at that time. And I also do a lot of journaling. I'm a big writer. I always have been. So that's really the pendulum too. I use that quite often, not just in sessions, but in my own life as a way to guide me. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Did you, by any chance, in your meditation, get any information for the upcoming times? Anything we should be aware of? Anything like that? You know, sometimes you're getting infos in the spare of a moment, and it's like, ooh, I didn't expect.
Yeah. So it really feels to me like the world is in the midst of a healing crisis, you know, where everything is intensified and accelerated right now. So I think it's more important than ever for those of us on a spiritual path to be aligned and clear. And so there's two things that I've kind of been focusing on based on the guidance that I've received. And one of the things, I guess the other thing I wanted to say is people have such strong convictions right now about what's right and what's wrong, for them and for everybody else, that it almost feels violent. It feels so intense. So what I feel like is really useful right now is to really take a step back from all of it and to look at what's going on from a spiritual perspective and understand that there is a spiritual purpose for all of this. And in addition to that, that there's a reason that we're here. We're here for a reason, and that we can use what's happening outside of us as a way to uplift the consciousness of humanity instead of contributing to all the fear, division, and chaos that is so strong right now.
Very well said. I'm getting chills. So that was very important. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for our viewers, how to step back and not getting swept up in the wave of drama and chaos and blame, shame gaming? You are wrong and I'm right, and you're standing on the wrong side of the fence and I know better than you and all that, which is easy as a human to be swept in with that wave of righteousness. So is it meditation, or do you have any other tools which you could tell the listeners what you recommend?
So I think that using our mind as a tool to uplift our own consciousness is really key right now, because our minds can kind of take us for a ride, and be full of fear and things that are happening externally. But if we are intentional with our thoughts and use our minds as a tool to for good. And the way that I do that is by asking questions. And one of the most powerful questions that I think there is to ask is, what do I want more of? So I've been using that question for myself, and the answer lately has been peace. So with that answer, I go into a meditative state, because that's how we access our subconscious mind and can change our brain chemistry and our nervous system, and most importantly, our reactions and our awake life. So in that state, I will put myself into situations, visualizing situations that might cause me unease or trigger me in some way, and practice being at peace in my mind before I go out into the world. And, practicing that is essential. And then as I go out into the world, I use that intention to align my thoughts, behaviors, and actions towards the light, towards what I want instead of what I don't want. It's so easy to focus on what we don't want to happen. Yeah. So just being really intentional with, okay, this is the theme I want. I want peace in my life. And then taking steps to cultivate that. I think, it's easy to say that, but then if we sit in front of the news all day saying we want peace, it doesn't really align, So we have to right now more than ever, I think we have to walk the walk. We have to be I think it was Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Right. So to sum that up for our viewers, so you are asking yourself, step one, you're asking yourself, what do I want to have more of? Name your theme, let's say more love, more connections, more relationships, more money, maybe even more this. And then, but please don't ever say, I need more of this, because then the subconscious says, oh, you want to experience more need? We will give you that, more need. So not that, but more like, I love more of that. And then that was number one. And then number two, you're going into a brief meditation in that relaxed state where you then practice aggravational possibilities and practice to be at ease and not judgmental or not triggered and then go out into the world as step 3 and see whether that practice has been holding and you are not getting triggered anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Good. What I'm also practicing myself is not to judge myself and others, to just say, who am I to judge anybody?
Yeah.
In that way, to climb up the pyramid of duality into the oneness point. That's my method, but I think yours is very good with a practice to do within, because the outside is the mirror of the inside. Very cool. Any extraordinary spiritual experiences you would like to share?
So I would like to share about the place I go that provides me with the most connection to my spirit. And I know you know me, you might be thinking I'm going to say Sedona, but that's actually not true. So it just starts with a little story. I was very close to my grandmother, who passed away 16 years ago. And she grew up on a lake that is about 20 miles from where I live right now. And when she was 5 years old, her father planted a circle of 8 fir trees. And the intention was for her to get married there. That was her dad's intention. And then when she was 12, her dad passed away. And this was one of the most painful things in my grandmother's life. Like I said, I was very close to her, and she never talked about her dad, ever. I found out all about the story after she actually passed away. So she actually did not get married in the circle of trees because of the pain that the memory caused her. When her mother died in 1970, and then they sold this property to the county, and now it's a place where people go and swim and camp and things like that. So in the past 8 to 10 years, I have such an amazing connection to this land. And I go to the circle of trees that my great grandfather planted. And my connection to the spirit world is intensified many times. I journal in the circle of trees often, and I'm able to channel. I write stuff that I do not know those things. Like, there's no way I come up with just like, oh my gosh, what is happening to me? But it's amazing the channels that open when I'm in that space. So I think that, there's so many things that give us access to our spiritual side. And that, for me, going to the lake, and I go at least once a week, sometimes more, to have that experience. And also, I just wanted to mention that I actually did get married in that circle of trees in October.
Yeah, and that was mentioned. I think your grandpa is here.
It really truly was the most spiritual experience. It's so hard to explain what happened, but it was pouring down rain. It was thunder and lightning, which sounds like that it would be undesirable, but it made it even more magical. And there were just a few people at the wedding, and everybody in that circle was overwhelmed by the presence of our ancestors there. It was hard to breathe. It was just so intense. It was, everybody was tearing up, and it felt like a kind of a rite of passage or something. Like the circle was closed because that, I'm the great granddaughter of the man who planted the trees, and it truly was incredible. I'm so glad I was able to do that. So,
well, we can see that an intent of love from the great grandfather who planted the trees definitely was carrying through. And the trees, normally trees like here in Sedona, they can grow into a circle and you have like a little mini vortex. But I think the intent of your great grandfather, the intent of love and planting a circle, who as a man plants a circle of trees?
I know, right?
Think about that too. That means your grandfather had some kind of connection going on. Otherwise, I don't think he would never have an idea like that.
Yeah.
So to have that, maybe previous lifetime as a druid or such. And then the trees themselves, which are normally growing on a ley line or energy line, or, you know, crisscross of ley lines, creating these circles, they are aware and willing to work with humans. But this intentionally planted, normally planted trees don't do that. If they're not on a ley line, forget about it. It's better to work with trees when you work with trees on a ley line. But this intention your great-grandfather was setting, I think that's did it to awaken or let the tree spirit say, okay, let's work with humans. Let's assist them in channeling. Let's assist them in this. Wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's talk a little bit before we round it up about your practice. What is the best way to contact you? I have here this divinepathways.love. Is that the best way to contact? Should it be by phone? What should we put down there in the description box for people to be able to contact you if they would like to have a session with you?
Yeah, so that's the best way to contact me is on my website, divinepathways.love. There's a contact form. So if you want to send me a message or ask any questions, that's the best way to do it. And then also you can set up an appointment directly on there as well.
Wonderful. One more last thing. So what in the general sense in a day gets you out of bed? I know you're changed your job and you're now self-employed. And that's a risk for many people, especially in COVID. A lot of people last year reinvented themselves. And I'm now faced with, do I do that what my heart desires or not? So what did make the decision for you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude to be at this place in my life where I have these tools and I have this guidance in place where I can serve people, you know, and provide a service that to me is very useful and it's life-changing. So that really gets me out of bed. I'm learning so much every day and connecting with people that are beautiful and on the path. And I really appreciate that, you know, being around people that want to get better and to evolve. And really what that means is to remember who they really are, because we just sometimes have things in the way. And it's just the pleasure of my life to be able to help with that. So
you never regret it then? You never look back?
I mean, there's some of that goes on, but I think that I have tools to help me with that. And I have an amazing husband and adult children now that really support me. Like they see how much joy this work brings me and how much, you know, it just it would be pretty amazing if it didn't work out, considering all the support I have, both spiritually and in my actual life. So I don't regret it at all.
Wonderful to hear. Yeah. I'm excited that you're on the planet to do this work and took the call and courage to do what you're meant to do here on planet Earth. And I encourage anybody who listens to this and is a little bit hesitant about making a big leap forward and going into spiritual practice work, coming from a totally different area of work, to say, yes, do it, stand up to your truth and invite the divine into your daily life and just work it. So thank you so much, Kelli, for coming. And it was my pleasure to interview you today. You're definitely a gift to the world.
Thank you so much, Claudia. It's really just a joy to be with you. I just love you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.